Also, if you guys enjoy Call of Saregnar, patreon.com, run Taven. That's where you go to support the game. If you end up spending more than $30 on Patreon, you get the game for free. Like, how cool is that? It's fantastic. So we're going to get this going right now. Let's see. Let me know if there's something going on that's weird. But it should work just fine. Everybody seeing this? No. Yes. Yes. Look at this thing. It's a thing of beauty. Let's listen to this music for a second. Just let it seep in. It's a beautiful sound. I'm so ready. All right. Let's get this started at least, and we'll watch the opening sequence, and then we will have our chat.
It was a late night in the small town of Romar. Hewin, an auspicious student of magic, and Sam, his roguish friend, decided to liven up the dullness of the road by spending the night drinking and gambling at the Yew Tree Inn. After observing the two playing and winning a number of games against the locals, a gambler approached their table and challenged them to a game of takla. It was then that fortune seemed to abandon them, as the two friends lost most of their money and many valuables playing against the man. Sam was no stranger at cards, and while he had no proof, deep inside he knew his opponent must have been cheating. At that point, the young rogue confronted the gambler, and in the struggle that ensued, an accusing card fell from the man's shirt. Realizing that he couldn't bluff his way out of the situation, the gambler felled Sam to the ground, grabbed the pouch of winnings, and dashed towards the exit. In the chaos, Huan tried to stop the retreating gambler, but only managed to trip on his friend and abruptly join him on the floor. Meanwhile, startled by the shouts in the common room, Dina, the owner of the tavern, dashed in and found the two youngsters lying atop one another, being the object of merriment of a drunken, cackling audience.
So it starts off with, what in Ulmaris' name happened here, and where's that bloody gambler? He's yet to pay for the lodging and food. He's gone. We caught him cheating at cards and he ran away. We tried. Gone? And why didn't you two go after him? Why didn't anyone go after him? The room fell silent as Dina's icy gaze traveled face to face across the room. Propping himself upright, Sam assessed the condition of his bleeding nose by carefully bending it first one way, then the other. Satisfied that it wasn't broken, he looked up at Dina, who stared at him with a mix of disbelief and rage. Hold on. We gotta change our description. We're not playing Betrayal of Krondor anymore. Gotta spell it correctly. Un momento, por favor. There we go. Alright, let's say this real quick. I was gone for 1 minute, Sam. Yeah, I know, but he had a third blue lady card hidden within his shirt. I knew he couldn't have been that good of a player. Not even the gamblers of Barumas could have. Enough, Sam. He's gone because of you, and I don't want to hear any excuses. You'll be paying for both him and yourself. The man took the coin, Sam. Dina, he what? I'm sorry, Dina. What can I say? He must have taken our money after he bashed my nose in. I see then. You either find your money and pay up, or you'll be playing here to cover the expenses every night for a week, starting tomorrow. A week? Come on. Be reasonable, Dina. I can't be stuck in this hole of a town for a whole week. And where are we going to sleep? Do we at least get a room to stay in? No, you don't. Since you can't afford staying, I suggest you start looking for the man now. I'm closing for the night. Dina, sweetie, you can't be serious. It's the middle of the night. We'll never find him out there in the dark. And you're right. Here, take these torches. You'll pay for them once you catch the gambler and get your money back. Good night. But Dina... Thus it begins. We already are starting off with a bang. So, 1 second. Let me check. Friend request. Yes. Can we accept? Yes, we can. Perfect. We're going to start a voice chat. Un momento, por favor. Let me just turn down the master volume a tad so that way it doesn't drown him out. Boink. And we will now make a phone call. That's a mic. Hello, how are you today? This is Damjan, the developer of Call of Saregnar. It's an absolute pleasure to have you, sir. How are you this morning? Can you hear me okay?
Wait a minute. It's a pleasure to be here, but I need to figure out this echo. Just a moment.
No worries. Let me see 1 second here.
Okay. Because right now I'm not hearing the game. I'm hearing Discord sound.
Ah.
And the game, because I'm over Twitch, is delayed. So I guess I'll combine the two. I'll turn the volume just a little bit on the Twitch, I guess, and the rest we can talk.
Perfect.
Via Discord.
Yeah, via Discord. Awesome. So yeah, so you're making this amazing game. It already looks amazing. Look at it. It's fantastic.
Thank you very much.
And clearly, it's inspired by Betrayal at Krondor, this game that I'm currently playing through right now, which has been an absolute joy. But I have this major question. The first question that I have to ask you is, like, why now? Like, what drives you to be like, I want to make a game like Betrayal at Krondor?
It's simple. I simply wanted to make it since I was a kid, since I played Betrayal at Krondor for the first time. And only now I became proficient enough in all the areas that, one has to make a game. Programming, design, art, and so on.
Yeah.
It's been in the works for 2 decades, this game, but really I've been working on it seriously in engine for, about 4 or 5 years now.
Wow. Yeah, because it was originally going to be a text game, like a kind of an interactive novel, right? Like originally?
Yeah. I had very low expectations for it. Unity was not really working for me back then because their UI system back then wasn't that good. I didn't want to play with it, and I didn't even consider going into 3D. So I just wanted to tell a story in a textual.
That's how it all starts. You always want to tell the story.
I know. It was similar to Darklands, if you know the game. The menu system, it would work similarly to that. You would have scenes and then turn-based combat and so on. But
yeah,
everything changed since Unity upgraded the UI, and I jumped into it. I mean, I can do it, I said to me, and I ended up here with what you can see now.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that it looks absolutely beautiful. It has a really great retro aesthetic to it, but it's still there's something about games from like the mid 90s, right? When it's not the early formation of 3D, right? But it's them starting to like play around with it a little bit more and exploring like early 3D models and environments, and it kind of captures that essence, but still offers this really awesome, like, the resolution. It feels old, but it looks new in the best way you can say that.
The 90s were amazing in technology. They kept discovering those things so fast, and every new game brought many different changes, usually for the best, but not always.
Yeah. Well, it's what's
But
interesting is that like so I mean a lot of people are starting to go into this retro visual aesthetic. Like that seems to be like the it thing right now. Everybody's going into the 90s, low poly, with pixel art like just kind of thrown onto it instead of using the photorealistic textures and stuff like this. It seems to be a big thing right now when you're kind of capturing that, I think, wonderfully well.
Yeah, thank you. It's a real. It's hard to. I mean, using photo textures in the game is not a problem, but using photo actors, this is quite a challenge. I mean, not everybody likes it, but I love Threadcoat so much. I love that style that I just went with it, and it has its drawbacks, of course. Of course, taking millions of photos and setting up stages for actors and green screen and all that stuff. It, especially now that this COVID virus is out.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
I don't know when I will find or even be possible to take the rest of the photos that I need to, but it's worth it. I think I liked how it turns out.
Well, what's so interesting with using real actors, right, and like digitizing them into the game, and there's a charm to that, right? There's one of these things that I always find so interesting in a lot of modern games nowadays is they're always just trying to create this or capture this photorealistic feel to 3D models, but it doesn't capture the nuance of body language. It's hard to capture the body language even in motion capture and stuff like this. There's still something off in that, right? But like a character's expression, a person's expression in real life, even if captured in a still photo, it represents so much. You get so much out of it, so much more, and I think that definitely. it's a cool and unique way to present stuff. And while it has like also just this little level of cheese, a little level of like silliness.
It definitely is cheesy, yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay. Like that's all right because they're games. They're supposed to be fun and a little silly. There's nothing wrong with that.
What I don't like about pushing into photorealism in the modern games is like the more realistic you get, the harder it is to convince someone that he's not playing a game.
Yeah.
As soon as the physics glitches a bit, or if you encounter a minuscule bug, you're simply out of the experience instantly. But with these old games, your imagination is working so hard already that even if unrealistic things happen, it doesn't detract from the experience, right?
Yeah. I think
you're still in there. That's what I love about the early 90s polygonal graphics and fake 3D and so on, because it's fake, but your imagination tells you otherwise.
Yeah.
And
there's that feeling of having to put a little effort into it as a player, where it no longer becomes going for a ride. It's where a lot of modern games, it's moving swiftly between set piece to set piece, where then you do like a fight against somebody or a challenge at that point. But in between those segments, you're just kind of going along for the ride that it's trying to present for you. And with a lot of the older games, there's a lot of effort that has to be put on the player's part that engages them in a big way. And so when these problems arise, these little glitches happen and things like this, they're invested already at that point. So for them, they overlook those small issues that might arise or these little glitches and bugs that happen because they're so engaged because mentally, their brain is already working on this stuff to try to get things going.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see here. Simon Escher says, the resolution, the dots per square inch for facial mocap still has room to increase. Oh, Senra's Sacrifice is referenced as being a very good example, though, of it being used well. Fried Rice 7 says, in Mass Effect, characters tend to show their emotion after they say their lines instead of during. Yeah, like that stuff takes you out of this experience. and it's really, 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 really interesting. Let's see.
It's details. It's really into the details. The new games really have to work hard to keep the players disbelief.
Yeah.
Right, a sense of disbelief.
And so typically with a lot of modern stuff or these very high, like high budget games, they try to just to shock you or like just excite you and move at such a pace where there's no time to there's no time to engage, And what I'm already experiencing here in just exploring the town and like looking at these things and currently like engaged in this conversation. By the way, I'm very much enjoying this because my brain always runs a mile a minute and is always constantly multitasking things. And I'm like, I'm having a conversation with you and reading this and talking. We're doing great.
That's a great brain. I wish I had one like that.
It's good sometimes for like this instance, right? But
You're made for streaming.
Yeah. Oh man, thank you guys for even letting me do this. I'm absolutely thrilled. I'm having so much fun already because
I mean, it's my pleasure.
I always feel like for people who are just kind of these casual like players of these types of games, you don't. So a lot of people make comparisons to like Betrayal at Krondor and a game like The Elder Scrolls, right? They try to make those comparisons between those two games. There's not that much. Yep. There's not much DNA there. They're first person. Like, there's their DNA. Because Betrayal at Krondor feels so much more like an adventure game, or feels like an interactive fiction with strategy combat. And whereas something like the Elder Scrolls games are really meant to be these, much bigger, grandiose worlds to explore and a lot more open-ended in how you do stuff. Well, people say Betrayal at Krondor is very open-ended. It's not really. It's
exactly.
It's pretty.
Those two games are very different.
Yeah.
Betrayal at Krondor is an adventure, not an RPG. It has RPG elements, but it's primarily an adventure game.
Yeah. And would you say that Call of Saregnar is probably more related to the adventure game than it is the broad open world RPG?
Yeah, I basically the RPG tag is just for marketing purposes. Call of Saregnar, I'm pretty sure it's pretty much an adventure game with RPG elements.
Yeah.
But still, it's much easier to connect with people and to market it if you say it's an RPG.
Yeah. I know, it's interesting the way that marketing and label things. Like, as a developer, right? You're developing this game. What are some of the major struggles that I think that you have in terms of just getting people to understand what this game is, like, and how to experience it, right? Because I feel like a lot of times when a developer makes a game, they don't get a lot of time to be able to connect to their audience and like really express like what their intentions are for this game, what is the motivation behind the game, and kind of a guideline on kind of how to experience it, right? Like,
I'm pretty open at at marketing and telling people what the game is, and I think I'm always on Twitter sharing screenshots and details and so on. So I'm not sure. People still, I think 99% of the people still believe and think it's an RPG. And it is an RPG, but it has much, it doesn't have, character generation. It's not that stat heavy. It's very much driven by the story, not by things you do, because the central storyline, the red line, is linear. You got through these dots. There are many ways to solve quests and so on. But you don't have the typical RPG elements like, quest, go kill rats, fetch quest, that stuff. It's very different. It's an adventure on the surface, and deep inside too. Daggerfall, on the other end, which many people compare this game to, primarily by looking at it. Oh, this looks like Daggerfall,
Yeah.
But it's a very, very different game.
Yeah. Well, that's also one of those things. You have these pre-established characters. It's not it's not a situation where the player is making their own character and having this kind of blank slate to put themselves into.
Yeah.
You have these characters that are interacting with each other and interacting with the world, and that is more akin to, you don't get that very often, in all honesty. You really don't. I mean, a lot of the popular computer RPGs during the 1990s and even now in modern day, they always have that blank slate character, the protagonist. That's who you are, and the world kind of just does its own thing, and you're just there to observe and interact with it, but it's never really about that main protagonist. It's about everybody else and all these other things that are going around it. And so it's sorry, go ahead.
You feel like you're controlling people, not that you are them. You don't invest so much into them. For example, in the Baldur's Gate games, right? Yeah. Where you control them from the top-down perspective all the time. And I don't want to rant into why I don't like the Baldur's Gate or the Infinity Engine games.
It's okay. It's okay. I rant about these things all the time. It's because it's a different type of game. It's not that it's a bad game. Of course, yeah. It's just
no. I appreciate. I admire the developers. I respect that game. It's just not my type of thing. That's why I think this game that I'm working on is so different from anything else out there. It's obviously heavily inspired by Betrayed Commander, but which is a completely different game. From how it delivers the story, how the characters, like you said, interact between each other. Not many RPGs have that, and I really miss that. It's hard if you create your characters. It's very hard or near impossible to create good character interactions between the party members, because you simply don't have anything in common that they could talk about. For example, you have character class, you have the territory where they come from, and so on, but not much more. All the charm in the conversation is in the details, right? The background, the stories of the characters, and the computer program simply can't create, even if it could generate some dialogue.
Yeah, I totally get you here. I have one other question with the story, and I'm not getting into spoilers, asking you like, hey, what's the story like? The overall theme here, one of the things is this story like a grandiose, you're the chosen one, or is this a more intimate story? Like, is this more really about these characters existing in this world, and that the story may be still an adventure, but it isn't this, raise the stakes higher and higher? What kind of story are you trying to tell?
It goes into raising the stakes. After this demo, this demo is only ambiented in this the surroundings of this first small village, and what you're doing here is basically like a side quest. You start with a side quest, which later turns into a big thing. But starting chapter 1, it is hinted in the webpage, so I might say that it starts with a murder, and you have to solve that murder, and so on. And the deeper you go, the chapter progresses, the more involved you get into everything regarding this world, and it ends up into a big bang.
Yeah. Well, it's like one of those situations. I don't know if you've ever played like Ultima 7, it's like a story that is really like a story about murder. It starts off with a gruesome murder, and then it just unrolls naturally into something bigger and bigger and bigger, but it's never like just right out of the gate something truly epic is happening and you must be the one to stop it. It builds very slowly.
No, I'm never doing this. Yeah. I'm trying to avoid every cliche out there, even though you simply end up being involved into this big overarching thing, but you never feel like the chosen one, even though hint there may be something into this.
Well, that's
Shows it one thing, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. You're not told. You don't feel like you are. You're just right now. You're controlling two kids, two friends, coming to see this his that book into this distant place, and, because he's passionate about magic, and his friend who is a rogue and has some business down south in another village, which is not a good demo, but still. And later it turns into something more serious, more involved.
Interesting. I'm so excited. I'm loving this very much. I'm like losing my mind already because what's nuts is that so you're using a lot of like sprites for your environment, for like the trees and things like this, right?
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that and with like the grass and such, it's done in a way that doesn't feel excessively it doesn't feel unnatural, which is interesting, right? Typically when, especially with like the older games in the 90s, when you had those sorts of environments where there's lots of sprites for environmental set pieces, a lot of times it always feels a little strange, you know? And I'm finding exploring.
I know what you mean.
So like when like you move around, you can see like the sprites kind of warp and change as you move around in older games. I'm not feeling that here, and that's a good thing. Like everything feels very natural, like the bushes and things like this. It feels like it works with your aesthetic, with your style, the style of the world visually, like how just everything's built. I don't know. I'm ranting. I'm just really excited.
Very much. It's a really it's a process I developed during the years on what each sprite, billboard sprite can and cannot have. For example, to prevent that warping and the feeling that you're going through stuff and so on. The trees have colliders, and then all the branches are higher up in the sky. You never. Okay, sometimes you do, but you generally don't ever bump into the branches of the trees.
Yeah.
And all the ground stuff that's 2D. For example, that bush in front of you, that white flower bush, it's low, and it's so low that you never go through it. If on the other hand, I have some object which is eye level, but those objects I do them in 3D, in low poly 3D.
Yeah.
And it's a combination of 2D and 3D that has to be carefully managed.
Yeah.
To not break any immersion.
I get this. I pick up on this. It's really interesting because it feels like you look at the scene as a whole, right? Like what I'm currently viewing at on my screen, right? Just this picture all seems. It doesn't feel as fake as like those 90s games, because there was always these times where it's like low resolution, the textures weren't as high quality, and in here they all have this really great quality to them. They all look really, really great. You're not just running through these trees, there's colliders to them, so it gives them this physicality to it. I just enjoy the visual look at this. This is a great screenshot. It looks good.
Thank you. I made it to be to be postcarded at every possible angle, if possible. Also, I put a lot of detail into constant pixel size, because everything that is modeled, if you approach it close and you compare one object to another, the pixels are generally very close in size, which is also another thing that
Sorry, I didn't mean to hit you with let's talk about the intricacies of the art design and the things that went into this at 7 o'clock in the morning.
No problem. I lost my train of thought. Anyway, yeah, there are many details and techniques used here that I learned throughout those years. That like this vineyard. It is generally like a billboard, but it is a warped the jagged polygon.
Yeah.
Left, right. So it's not completely flat when you look straight at it, right?
I noticed this, yeah.
Yeah, and there are many such details in the graphics in here that try to not make it completely flat or completely 3D.
Yeah.
It's always somewhere in between.
And that is what I'm trying to get at when saying like it's really fascinating, because you don't see that very often. It's typically either flat or it's not, or they usually leave a lot of these kind of like flat textures in the skybox far in the distance, right?
Yeah.
But it gives it that old school feel, but it also gives it that more modern sensibility too, to make it still feel like it's a tangible place, in this first person perspective.
As I'm seeing in the chat, there is no bump mapping, there is no advanced shaders in here. All the shaders are very simple. Most of the shadows, such as those under the roof of this building, for example, are painted in. Some are baked. And the only a bit more complex shader is the shadows of the trees, for example. They are. I use a custom shader to project that shadow of the tree. So even if the tree is flat, you still see a complete shadow always. But it also dependent on where the sun is and so on. So it feels realistic and not flat, not 2D.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Sorry.
There's many details all around.
So I have to ask this one. This is a personal question. Is how anxious do you get when you show off this stuff to other people?
I at first I was so nervous about showing anything, but I got so much positive feedback that I'm simply. It's unbelievable how much positive feedback I got. I don't think I never imagined people would like this game so much. I think this demo is still far from the game, but I don't get nervous that much nowadays. But still, whenever people play the demo, I cringe. Maybe that's about all. They will see that typo there, and maybe they'll fall through the terrain or something. But somehow it's pretty solid. Maybe I was lucky. I don't know.
I think that's also a thing. Like when you're dealing with less complex terrain, it's a lot harder to fall through. That's always a positive.
Yeah, you see, I don't have jumping in this engine.
Yeah.
And I don't have it for a reason. I don't want to model all those details of allowing player to go anywhere. You're limited by mountains in this case. You can't cross the river, for example, right now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I will allow that later. I'm not sure yet. Now the weather is changing, I see. Yeah, I have the dynamic weather in here. It is generated at the start of the game, and then weather will play a part in the game.
That's interesting.
I'm still not sure how detailed I want to go with that. If you should not travel, for example, in rainy weather and so on.
Yeah.
I don't want to alienate the players who don't want to bother with that. But,
like the hunger being a thing you need, but not being such a balancing act. Where people have to really watch it. It's like it's just something that you need to be aware of over time, your rations and things like this. Whereas other games are like,
your rations.
Yeah, you have to eat constantly, and you always have to.
You don't have to feed them manually. You don't have to do that. Many old RPGs, especially the Realms of Arcania, for example, series, which I love, had so much micromanagement that I don't really want to do here.
Yeah,
you just need to have certain equipment in your inventory and your set.
And that's great. And you talk about like the lack of jumping. That's not a bad thing, right? Like jumping, now you're more laser focused in how you explore the environment by taking that sort of element out, and jumping typically leads to people trying to break things. Like they're like, let's see where I can go. I'm going to go up that hill. It doesn't let me, but if I can jump, I could probably find a way to get up there.
Right.
But it just adds an extra major element of having to develop and build a world around that
Yeah, but also
concept.
it feels a bit weird to me if you control a party and you're jumping, you know. You're not a single entity. You're not one person who jumps and whistles and runs around. You're a party. This view represents a party. So it felt always a bit weird to me that you could jump in a party-based RPG, for example.
Yeah.
These
Your team of
details,
3 is
yeah.
all jumping in unison. They're all working together.
Yeah. Maybe you're just controlling, you know, maybe the characters you see through the eyes, it's maybe only the first character in the party, right?
Yeah.
You can set it up like that.
I very much love the visuals that are happening right now. Like when you're in the tavern and when you're in the temple here, having those real actor sprites with like even just the low animation, right? Like the 3 frames of animation. It just there's something crazy about it that feels unique, that feels very distinctive, right? You capture something that's very distinctive because typically people are either going full motion video with games like Her Story and stuff like this, like these adventure games. But to have them be like a digitized version with like a low animation rate, but you know, kind of static in the environments in these environmental set pieces, so that way you don't have to worry about player movement and having to deal with like just constantly changing that camera angle. It still feels really interesting and cinematic and can create these really striking visuals like the one that we have here in the temple.
Yeah, I love those internal scenes. I have many of them, you know, inns, temples, shops, and so on, and all the special occasions, everything that happens inside, apart from the in quotes dungeons, are all into this are set into this fixed camera view with mouse cursor that you can examine things and talk to people and so on. Yeah, those live actors doing their little animation bring a lot of charm to those places, I think.
And who are the people that are doing these the actors? Are they like friends of yours?
These are, I live very close to Italy, to the border of Italy, about 15 minutes away. So I met with the medieval reenactment group. They are all archaeologists, doctors of history, and so on. And I met them, I talked to them, and they were very excited to be part of the game because they are also, almost every one of them is a hardcore, old school gamer, RPG player, and so on. So it was a match made in heaven. Yeah.
Exactly. They're
and
like,
I
get to dress up and take
pictures. I
pictures.
ended up going out with them. I ended up going out with them in some of those events, and I bought myself my own costume and so on, medieval. Yeah, they're great guys.
Let's see. Yeah, so it's what's even more interesting, right? Is to play this demo after playing Betrayal of Krondor literally an hour ago, because you see these parallels, right? Like how the temples work, and it's very similar in how its descriptions are and how everything kind of works, and it's nice because those elements of Betrayal at Krondor, right? Those they had the illustrated scenes, you know, that you can then interact with like an adventure game, and then having these really great prose and dialogue and just really wordy, but not so wordy. It's not like having to read a book because you're not reading pages and pages of dialogue. It just seems really paced well.
I still have to distill the text a bit. I got an editor now. Our manager. Shout out to Ty. He'll be taking over the editorial position as a native speaker. We go through all the game texts, which would be a big job, but yeah, because there are some a couple of typos, some things that only a native speaker may notice that I don't. We need to fix that, but other than that, yeah, I wanted to keep the style of Betrayal Condor in this game as well, not just through graphics, but also through how the dialogue is presented and so on.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely
I grew up
interesting.
with Raymond Feist, reading his books, so I guess a lot of his narration style, his writing style, went into me, into my DNA, and merged.
Well, that's great. All right, let me see. Do I have the flowers? Yes. So I'm very curious, like, these auto use, right? Like, I don't know if the graveyard. I don't know if that's the right graveyard. Here it is. Here we go. Probably gonna find out where one I need to use for this one. That's interesting. So when writing this, you created this, this world all on your own. What sort of influences did you pull from? Did you have any influences, or is this like one of those things where you're like, I have this great idea, it was an epiphany moment, and I just wanted to write this story? Like, where did you get your influences for this world building? Oh. Are you still there? Oh no, did I lose you? Hold on, let's see. No, you're still there. Oop. Hopefully we didn't lose you. Fried Rice says the sound effects sound good, really crisp. I agree. Sorry guys, I'm totally ignoring chat. I apologize. The candle effects. Let's see. We'll still explore the world while we do this then. We'll have ourselves a grand old time. Still looking for the thief. Yeah, there is combat, and the combat is similar to what we have in Betrayal at Krondor, except instead of being a grid-based, it is hexagonal, I believe, or it might be octagonal. We're gonna see. They were invited into the small house after explaining they were travelers on their way to Avonmore. Ranamede, the head of the former family, offered them a place to sit next to the fire. We're just about to have breakfast, said his wife, then added, Ter Inan has been generous this year, so food is plentiful. We'll be happy to share. Ewan welcomed the warm food he's been given, and Sam readily emptied his plate. Be nice to hear news from the outside. Ooh! Welcome back. Did we lose you? Oh no! I can't hear you! I hope it didn't crash. We're getting this all figured out. 1 second, guys. We'll read until then. It'd be nice to hear news from the outside, Ranamede said, between one mouthful and the next. We used to have visitors now and then, but these days, they rarely stop to have a chat. Everyone seems to be in a hurry. Hewan spent a good part of the hour recounting what he knew, and whenever the story got too dull to Sam's liking, the light-haired rogue promptly added all sorts of embellishments to the tale. That's me in this conversation. Hewan sung one of his songs, which amused Sarah, Ranamede's wife, to no end. When they were done, Sarah addressed Sam. That was quite a tale. Next time you visit Romar, I'd love to hear you sing another one. Sam accepted the compliment with a broad smile. Together with Ewan, they rose and thanked them for the hospitality. As they walked towards the door, Ranamir said, Good luck on your travels, boys. If you haven't been to our temple, you should really do so. Perhaps talk to the priestess while you're there. Thank you, Ranamir. We spoke to the priestess already, Ewan replied. And it's been a most unnerving experience, Sam added, shuddering at the thought of the encounter. Again, they thanked him for their hospitality and left. Oh, really? Okay, hold on. I will call you back. It was great. All right, let's call back. Hello. Oh no. What's happening? Huh. Un momento. Let's see. Oh, I hear you.
I hear you now.
Welcome back.
For some reason, and it wanted to connect. It couldn't connect, and now it connected.
Very nice. Welcome back. I don't remember what we were talking about.
I forgot about something about dialogue and.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like what was your influences for writing? Like creating this world building. Was there any particular work of fiction outside of, I'm guessing the Rift Force saga was very much influenced by that.
Yeah, all the Feist stuff mainly, and not very much else. I don't think I was influenced by other works really. Uh,
We have the riddle chests back. I'm very happy about the riddle chest.
There are two chests in this demo actually.
Let's
Quite
see.
hidden.
Yeah. Always round and hollow I am, though sizes and matters I come in many. A children's trinket or a lord's signet. It depends, for rolls I have plenty. Oh. Chat. Let's see, ring. Let's see. Nailed it. This makes me happy. We were talking earlier about why the riddle chests are such a fun thing to play with. Because it's like they're not necessary, for plot. And if they are, there's like little quests involved that tell you the answer. But what makes them I even checked the ration to make sure that it wasn't poisoned. Or do you have that? Do you have spoiled and poisoned rations?
I do.
Okay.
But they're not in this demo.
All right, well, I checked.
Poisoned here.
I checked just to make sure. But they're fun. They're not necessary, but they're just like a fun thing, and you kind of know that if the riddle's really hard, you're typically gonna get really good loot. And when it's easy, it's
That's
like
true.
you get kind of easier stuff, and it's just fun to do. It is a nice diversion, also to kind of to take a break from the story and engage on something really simple. A riddle isn't something so complex like a logic puzzle, and having the tumblers means that you can also solve it in a different way that is more analytical, I guess. It's a way that you can solve it. Sorry.
Yeah, even if you're bad at riddles, you can still figure it out by checking out the letters and comparing what words can come out of it. But it's a bit hard to justify a loot box like that to be in this world. But perhaps I'll find some lore-wise way to justify their existence. Even if not, they're still. It's cool. So you can explore those remote places and find those chests.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really great.
Of course.
So I'm loving this game. What's funny is that like I was privy to
Thank you.
to the game like I would say about 3 or 4 months ago ish, like at the beginning of the year. A good friend of mine was like liking some of your posts and like videos and stuff like this, and I was like, this is up my alley. And what's interesting though is that like I was more attracted to this not because of like Betrayal at Krondor, because I had like played that barely as a kid, but I didn't understand it or have the patience to go through it. But your work had inspired me to go and play Betrayal at Krondor.
Oh, nice.
Which is why I was playing it. Was because I was actually really interested in. I knew it was inspired by it, and I was like, well, I do want to kind of get a sense of what it's going to be like, and
right.
I was worried that like Betrayal at Krondor was going to not stand up. And I'm like, oh no, is it gonna actually like shy me away? And it drew me in. It very much drew me in.
Betrayal at Krondor is an amazing game. It's evergreen.
It very much is.
It may have aged in graphically and control-wise, but it's still an amazing game.
Yeah.
Always would.
I've had minor gripes, only minor gripes in some of the combat encounters. I'm like, really? You're gonna just kill me before I even get a turn? But other than that, like, it has been so much fun to just, and the characters are very memorable, like all of them that you come across. Yeah. I don't have experience with the books, I haven't read any of those. So to come in as a blind observer without any previous experience, it's interesting to learn and discover that stuff because I can tell they're referencing books and events that happen in it. But I can still understand what's happening, and I love it. It's so much fun, and so it makes me more excited for this. Sorry,
Nice.
things have happened.
I also read the books after I played Betrayed Condor, so yeah, I guess many did, but also the other way around. Many new fights before, especially in the US, right? Not here in Europe, but
It's interesting. All right, we might be getting into a fight here. It looks like. Let's see.
fight in the dark.
All right, and the rain too. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So we got some stuff. Ranged attack, defend, rest. All right, because we got our thief. All right.
You can use WASD to rotate the camera. Actually, nobody, I think, has figured this out already.
All right. Oh, man. I love it. Let's see.
I'm still not sure if I'm keeping this in the end, but I probably am.
I like it. I think this is great because there can also be sometimes a situation where maybe the environment might get in the way, where you can't get a clear view of the battlefield. And so to be able to move that camera around will be helpful, I would think. Also, my friend Leplico says that Locklear has the best hair. Would you agree in Betrayal at Condor, Locklear has the best hair?
Yeah, he's the lead guy in a boy band.
That is the truth. Okay, so let's see. We got this guy here. So I'm curious to know. I'm testing things. I want to check something. Okay, good to know. On the combat side of things, because I knew like when I played Betrayal at Condor, there'd be instances where I'm like, I want to attack that guy from like this spot here, you can actually. So there's like a critical path to the enemy. I should have done magic.
It's the shortest path to the enemy, but yeah.
Interesting.
I'm not still sure if I'm keeping the Betrayed Condor dynamics of combat completely.
Yeah.
Yes. I want to keep it simple for everyone. I don't want to keep it complicated. Having steps and points, movement points, and so on. I don't want that really. I think Condor managed to create a fairly simple combat, but which can get complicated. It has complex rules, especially with spells. It's not all damaging spells. It's got spells you can pull stuff towards you, you can push stuff away.
Yeah.
It's got all sorts of.
I talked about how the Betrayal of Condor's like combat very much felt like, I don't know if you've ever played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, but a lot of like 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Not much, no.
Where they had these, and it's only in that edition in particular, where they have a lot of spells that are about manipulation of the environment, of pulling people, moving things around, and and setting up these more strategic elements. And I very much I love that idea, but I also I feel like typically with a lot of computer RPGs, there's a lot of like number crunching. And Betrayal at Condor does not really have the number crunching, which is very nice. Like
it's
that,
very simple. Everyone can get into it.
Yeah, and that was another thing that I talked about. There's a Sega Genesis game that I very much enjoy called Shining Force. It's a tactical strategy game, but it's not heavy on the numbers. It's not heavy on menus and all those things. It's very lean, so people can just get into it and be competent from the beginning, but then start to see the nuance and the strategy and be able to then blossom into more complex facets of the game. And I felt that with Condor, and I can already tell that we're going to be getting there with this one. I have a question for you. Magic. So are these on the left of this, are these all different gods, or what are these?
Yep, those are gods. And magic, I love magic most in this game. At least how it will be implemented. It is, but not in this demo. First, you need to learn of a god. You have to go to their temple or wherever where you learn about them. Then you learn of the spells, and you need to have favor on the side of that god to be able to cast spells. So there could be quests, just simply to gain the favor of each god in turn. And there may be some relation between each of these gods, because not every one of these gods really likes everybody else.
Yeah.
So there may be some what's the word I'm looking for? Some interactions between knowing, some consequences between knowing a certain number of gods.
Yeah, so if you have favor with one, it's going to kind of lock you out of favor with another because those don't mesh well.
Yeah.
That's interesting, and I love that.
Not sure how much I want to enforce that, but yeah, it's an idea I'm playing with.
You had mentioned Darklands as another game that was an inspiration, right? Mm-hmm. And that feels very Darklands to me, which I like. Darklands is fantastic.
Yeah, I know. I love their system of they have divine favor, right?
Yes.
And but it works a bit differently. Divine favor is just to be allowed to use that god's circle of spells.
That's
still
great.
Use stamina or endurance for the power of spellcasting. The source of magic, the mana is like in Betrayed Condor here too.
So that's really interesting. That kind of sets itself apart from Krondor. It's similar, but also has something that's a different level of depth and difference that makes it stand out and be interesting.
It started very close to Betrayed Condor, but it's slowly departing from Krondor and improving on things and changing things. The game is growing, I guess, to be its own thing. It's not really a Betrayed Condor wannabe anymore.
Which is great. I'm very much down with this. I'm very, very excited about this because, there's always these games that are like, we're influenced by this. We just kind of want to make that with a modern sheen to it. And it a lot of times becomes more just imitation than inspiration.
Right.
And from my experience with this so far, I'm very much not getting the imitation. I'm getting, you are taking the facets of Krondor that were interesting, right? But you are taking that and elevating it and improving upon it and adding your own personal flair and twist to it. Because Krondor was, even in movement, was, kind of grid-based, click, click, click.
Mm-hmm.
And having that ability to freely explore is incredibly helpful. And having the weather effects, I'm down. So I get a major vibe with
although if you notice, you still time only passes when you move in here.
Yep.
So you still can time will not pass if you stand still and just look around. So
I like that.
That's something I lost from Krondor, and maybe it's not noticeable, but it's cool because you can just leave the game as it is, go get some coffee, come back, and you can resume from there. It's a very comfy experience, comfy exploration. You're not pressed into anything time-wise. I don't like being pressed into anything. I want my losing myself into this world as comfortably as possible.
I am feeling you so hard right now. I agree 100%. There is something about just letting a scene sit, right? So like we're right now, it's nighttime, the sun's about to rise, I think, and it's raining and overcast, and like to have a moment, right, when time is passing, you see a good sunrise, right? You're always having to frantically be like, I got to get the right picture. Now you can just be like, I'm just going to not move and we're going to sit right here and just enjoy this. It feels good. But I want to touch on, and this is just so stupid. I'm reminiscing on a feeling that I get with the weather. I don't know if you've ever played the original EverQuest, like way back in the day.
I haven't. Sadly, I was an Ultima Online guy.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Ultima Online's fantastic. So the thing with the weather in EverQuest was that it was moving, and it it had a visual aesthetic that is kind of similar to this, and with the way that the rain is moving down, it kind of feels, the rain feels very three-dimensional. And it does add, it adds so much to an environment and a feeling, and I think that it looks fantastic. The environmental effects of this.
I also really love how the rain turned out. It's still not perfect because if you look up, the raindrops don't start very high.
Yeah.
This was mostly a graphics optimization thing. But
oh, I see.
It's not very noticeable, but
yeah. I would never be like, oh no.
I got 2 weeks to go.
Oh, that's it. I'm out now. I'm out. The raindrops don't generate too high. They're just a couple feet above. Nope. Done. Sorry.
Immersion broken. You can quit now.
Oh my gosh.
This is one of the things I was talking about. If you notice something like that, it doesn't break immersion.
Yeah.
Unless if it was a modern game, AAA graphics. If you saw something like that, you'd go.
Case in point.
Let's Reddit this.
Yeah, the Assassin's Creed games, like they would have these weird graphical glitches, and it's just like I'm out. Like just because they're trying so hard for the photorealism. They're trying so hard for making everything feel like it really is the place that they were trying to model. And then when those things happen, it immediately takes you out. Whereas we're doing something fantastical, you're not going for photorealism. You are going for a very unique visual aesthetic, and you are accomplishing it. So when little things like that pop up, you don't have a frame of reference to be like, it shouldn't be like this.
Right.
But you're also making it a simple aesthetic that it isn't so complex for a person that things stand out. So like we're looking at this town in the rain, and just the lighting of the lanterns, like it brings out these very striking visuals that help highlight, like, I know that's the inn, like, because that lantern's on, I know it's open, and it feels right. Instead of being this multitude of buildings and like lots of people moving through the area, like those stuff can clog a person's ability to pick out pieces of information from the environment. And you're doing a great job of making it all work and make sense.
Thank you very much. It's it's like actors outside Daggerfall Arena. They were moving always in the random directions all around, and I'm still not sure if I'm going to do in some way, apart from enemies. There will be enemies on the map around the head, but I'm still not sure if I'm doing NPCs because they don't bring much to. They actually. When you're looking for an NPC, for example, somebody to talk to, some specific person, it's easier to know. You'll find it always in here, in this tavern. You'll be able to talk to him, or you'll find him here. If the tavern is open, you will find him here and can talk to him. You won't have to hunt him around. Is he at home now? Is he working in the fields? No. I like to simplify this. I mean, maybe it would bring something to realism into the world by having NPCs wander around the world, but on the other hand, I'm not sure it brings anything to the gameplay. Really. It maybe even takes something away from it.
I'm gonna agree with you on it taking something away from it. That's my personal stance. Is that I honestly would feel that it would take something away from it, because when you have those characters, people want to interact with them, right? And if there's not much of an interaction or no interaction at all, it doesn't feel like there's a point to them.
Yeah, same goes if you have, for example, ultra-large cities with hundreds of houses and most of them are empty.
Yeah.
Or just stupid encounters which don't have anything to do with the story, with the main storyline and so on. Then why have them, right?
Yeah.
That's why Krondor had, it could have been a technical limitation. I'm sure it was back in the day, but even now I much prefer to have that city screen with a couple of hot points that you can click, the inn shop, and having a whole city of empty buildings that you need to explore and get random loot. Huh?
Yeah, well, that's also kind of goes towards this lean thing. You know, everything's lean. Everything has a purpose, right? And in those situations, it is difficult when people are like, "I want these big sprawling cities," but it is a compromise then at that point. And even with a game that was that had a huge attention to detail, we talk about games like Elder Scrolls Morrowind, right? Their cities weren't enormous cities. Nobody really necessarily complained about the size of those things. They all served a purpose, and it still felt big. You can make something feel large without it being large, you know, physically. And I felt that way with Krondor, where I was like, the world feels enormous, but I'm moving through it really quickly and getting to the places I want to get to really easily without having to go through, you know, like hours of trudging through things. And I'm feeling that way here as well, that we seem to be like moving to these major set pieces. There's enough space where you can kind of enjoy the environment and enjoy the movement without being like, okay, I want to get to my destination. If that makes sense.
Right. Yep, exactly.
Let's see. Okay, so yeah, we paid off our debt, which is great. And let's see, we have to go get the book now, I think is the last thing, right?
Right.
Let's bard it up, though. So, the musician who did this, he is actually a local in my area. He's not too far from where I live.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
He's in Petoskey, Michigan, which is a bit up north, but yeah, he's a local guy I learned, and I'm like, all right, Michigan represent. I like this. One other question for you on this is, how difficult is it to get everybody, because they're from different locations. It's you, the musician, and there's one other person, right, working on this?
Yeah, he's Ben. He's from Germany.
From Germany. How is it to get everybody working together and being like on the same page?
No, it's no problem. They're you know, Tony is a musician, Ben is a sound effects guy, so I simply tell them what I need, and they do it whenever they have time. It's not like we're two developers or three developers working on the same code base. We don't have to be on it together all the time.
That makes sense.
We communicate.
Yeah.
We'll communicate back and forth until things work right. But they're exceptionally great, talented guys. So it's not hard for me to work with them in any way.
That's awesome. That's great. It's also one of those situations where, I mean, it is a lot of work on your end, I guess. You know, it's not so great for you having to do all that work, but you're getting to make the game you want to make.
That's exactly. It's, you know, I'm a big believer into a vision. I think there should be always only one guy holding the vision of the game, because unless you are a twin, the other one is your twin brother, then and share your everyday life and the vision and knowledge and reading the same books you've been reading. You won't deliver such a concise product in the end.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I am very much loving this. Like, even when you were talking about making these two-dimensional things feel three-dimensional, like this bush here, there's layers to it. It is, you know, it's cubed because it's having that depth. I'm geeking out. I'm sorry.
No, geek out as much as you can.
Let's see.
Yeah.
That's perfect. This is so interesting. I'm so excited. I mean, I have a question for you then, is that how are you feeling about, like, getting this game? How close are you to getting this game out? I'm hungry now. I'm hungry.
I think it wasn't publicly announced, but we are most probably doing a chapter, an episodic model of releasing this game. And we're probably going into early access to to get some money in and allow me to work on this full time and drop my job and so on, because all of what you're seeing here is me working after work, night hours, a couple of hours a day, and a few more hours on the weekends. But it's hard going and too slow going, and I need time to dedicate myself to this full time. That's why I'm running Patreon and so on, and but I'm still far from the goal. You know, I got bills to pay, mortgage to pay, and so on, and I can't possibly afford to drop my job just yet.
I think it's always hard, right, to go into early access stuff, and always trying to find the right model, especially for a game like this, because there have been instances where I played some early access games that are kind of RPGs and stuff like this, and it's very much like, this portion is incomplete, just keep going, you know, and like, we're working on this part, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. But I do feel like a chapter episodic thing, if you have to go that way, because I know that that you very much personally were like, I kind of want to release a finished project so people can experience it, like, you know, contiguous. But a chapter, you know, doing it a chapter at a time, as best as you can, you know, will work really well for you. I think it's going to go great. Honestly,
I feel so. It's still, the story is, you know, I would prefer to release this as a one complete product, the whole game, but I don't think it's possible unless I should work on this 15 years or something.
Yeah, I know, right?
But that's impossible. But so I think the episodic model will work fine with it, because the story is already set up in chapters and episodes.
Yeah, you know where you're going.
The only problem is that I won't have the whole world open, relatively open, like Condorhead, to explore, and it will open up gradually. So there will be certain areas that will be inaccessible.
Yeah,
I still try to make it in such a way that you won't feel locked down.
Yeah,
because you're just in the first chapter, but
with Krondor, with Krondor, they do at certain moments, they're kind of blocking you off with things, right? Where they have these like enemies that will never stop respawning, and have these really tough challenges. Yeah. So I feel like, in your case at least, there is going to be a point where things are going to be more open. You know, you'll get to a certain point in the chapters where you'll have enough of this place built out that that it can be more open and for people to explore.
Exactly.
And there's always room for a sequel.
That's true. If this ever releases and is successful, I mean, in any case, there will be a sequel.
But
if this game is successful, I'm certainly going to go into not into an episodic model, but into a full game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be successful. If you want my honest opinion, I think that you're coming out.
I really hope so.
I hope so too. For all of our sakes, because it is a visually interesting game. It looks very striking. It has a very distinctive visual style to it. Also, to note, like, it feels good to move around. Like, you move swiftly, right? But it's not so slow or so fast that it becomes a problem.
I have implemented the run button, but not in this demo.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's okay. I'm enjoying the speed at which I'm moving around in this. But like, just the little things of the smoke coming out of the chimneys of the houses and stuff like that, like, to also kind of, you know, notate that there are people here. There's things happening. Those are the ways that you can show that this place is alive without having just a bunch of people walking around.
Right. I mean, it's amazing that it doesn't feel like a dead town, right? Even though there are no people out in the streets, you don't get that impression.
Not in the slightest. Yeah. You don't get an impression that it's empty. It doesn't feel that way. And having those interactions when you interact with like the houses and you talk to people, it does add something. And also, people referencing other people. You know, you talked about like the crazy neighbor in here, you know, and I'm like, those are instances when a game references itself, and I might not have met that lady yet, but they talk about her, and then when I see her, I'm like, that's the lady she's talking about. You feel good when that happens, when you're able to fill in those gaps or recognize those references, and they're like, oh hey, you know, have you been to the temple? And it's like, yeah, we were already there. I was creeped out, you know, like those moments are special. They're very special. And I think that by you including those things, that is a testament to your design philosophy, to your vision. And I think that that is all the more reason why I feel that this game is a success. That it is a success.
Thank you very much.
Because it really does a good job of having those little details, those little things that just, they mean something. They mean a lot, at least to me as a player. Those are the sorts of things that I eat up.
I'm glad it comes through. I'm really pouring my soul into this. So I hope everyone will appreciate what this game is eventually.
I think the people who are interested in this game are going to love it. And I think that that it's gonna do well. I think it's gonna do really well. And the fact that it's just you and 2 other people working on this, you know, your passion is showing in this game a lot. I think I'm loving it.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
excited. Ooh, my friend Keeglift's here. Hold on. She wants to say, let's see, the music behind Bogus' discussion is so inspirational right now. Her heart is swelling from the music. Key, I love this. Key, you haven't known yet. We're playing the demo for this game, Call of Saregnar, which is coming out soon. Or soon. It's coming out sometime soon in the future. And it's a delightful RPG that was inspired, an adventure RPG that's inspired by Betrayal at Crondor, which is a game I'm playing right now, Key. And it's fantastic. I'm talking with the developer, who is just an absolute joy. I put up on the stream a link to the Patreon. If people do want to support this game right now, it's worth it. Put some money in, a couple bucks. It helps. It helps make it happen.
Anything helps. Thank you very much. Yeah, props go to Tony for creating this amazing soundtrack. He's a really, really talented guy.
Yeah.
Musician, composer.
And
yeah, it's it really feels.
How are you feeling about this game?
How am I feeling about this game?
That's terrible. Nah, nobody play it. Yeah, I'm kidding.
I hate it. Don't buy it.
So in those instances,
this game is my life.
Yeah.
I basically live. If when I'm not spending time with my family, my kid, I work on this game. When I'm not thinking about anything else, I'll think about this game. So it's an obsession. And I hope I'm not going crazy. So in the next years, that it will take me to finish this thing.
Well,
I am releasing a big public demo, probably at the end of this year.
Okay.
Which should include this area plus the whole road down south towards the next town, where the prologue finishes and chapter 1 starts. So hopefully that will give a much better taste with of course with much refined system and a journal, an active journal and so on, and a map.
Wow. Well, I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I'm so happy. I'm happy that I got to play this.
Thank you.
I want to say, like, thank you so much for coming and talking to me. And I'm sorry if I ranted incoherently for forever, because I get very excited.
You're most welcome. It was a really nice experience and a pleasure to see you play the game and talk about it.
I hope that I wasn't too overbearing. Because I always
not at all.
I always feel like I end up talking over everyone. I'm sorry. I just was doing it now. I always feel like I'm talking over everybody.
No, that's perfect because I'm not a very communicative, talkative person. So that's amazing. It works perfectly.
Yeah, it's like a good. It's a more hands-on, like QA session. It's like a testing session where I'm just like, ooh, I see this. Ooh, I see that. And you're just like, that's good. That's what I wanted you to see. So
Nice.
well, I'm so happy that you were able to do this, and I know it's really early for you. It's bright and early in the morning. It's late for me. But
No problem. It's not problem waking up. It's harder for me if I would be here about midnight or 1 o'clock because I'm very sleepy at night.
Yeah.
I'm more of a morning person, so this is perfect.
well, I'm glad.
And I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry for you for staying for keeping out so late.
My wife does not work tomorrow, and I'm like, you know what? I can sleep in an extra hour. I'll be fine. I'm a guy who runs on like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Like I'm just a naturally like energy, endless.
Okay. I need my 7-8 hours of good sleep, otherwise I'm not functioning.
I get like naps. I nap through the day. I'm like, I take a half-hour nap here, half-hour nap there, and I'm good to go.
Okay.
Anyways, quick, just do shout outs on all the stuff, your website, your Twitter, all that stuff. Where can they find you?
All the links that you need are on the website. That's www.callofsaregnar.com. You can mostly find me on Twitter. I'm tweeting almost every day. You got my Rantavan account on Twitter, and also the Call of Saregnar, more game-specific account with more game-specific updates.
Yeah.
So just head on to the website or on Twitter. You can find all the links that you need there. And thank you very much for supporting me.
Thank you for making it.
I'm just happy for sharing the word of this game, because sharing the word is probably the second most important thing that you can do for the game.
Well, I'll keep talking about it, because you're like the indie game that I am the most, like the one I'm following the most right now.
Yeah, I'm super happy about it. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, I'm going to say goodnight. Thank you so much for talking with me. I loved it to death. So I will be absolutely playing the demo when it comes out and just talking this game up, because I had a lot of fun.
All right. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Thanks for the chat, too. Goodbye.